In 1984, during what should have been a straightforward congressional campaign in Pennsylvania, an unexpected voice cut through the airwaves. It wasn't a political rival or a party strategist. It was Buddy Ebsen, the beloved television icon known to millions as Jed Clampett. Instead of offering quiet support to his former co-star Nancy Kulp, he publicly campaigned against her. For audiences who had spent nearly a decade watching them share the screen on the Beverly Hillbillies, the moment felt jarring. For Nancy, it was something deeper. It was confirmation that professionalism, restraint, and years of silence had not guaranteed loyalty. To the public, she was Miss Jane Hathaway, efficient, intelligent, and emotionally contained amid the chaos of sudden oil wealth. But Nancy Kulp's composure on screen wasn't performance alone. It was the product of a lifetime shaped by discipline. Born in 1921 in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, she grew up in a household where education and order were sacred. Her father worked as a federal tax officer. Her mother was a teacher who later became a principal. Emotional indulgence was secondary to achievement. Precision mattered. Language mattered. Self-control mattered most. As a child, Nancy stood out, tall, sharp, and academically gifted. Those qualities earned respect, but they also marked her as different. In a culture that often encouraged women to soften themselves for acceptance, Nancy did the opposite. She leaned into intellect. At Florida State College for Women, she studied journalism, mastering structure and clarity. Words, she learned, were tools that demanded responsibility. Later, she pursued graduate studies in English and French at the University of Miami, deepening her understanding of nuance and restraint. World War II interrupted academia. Nancy joined the U.S. Navy's WAVES program, serving as an officer in administrative and aviation training roles. Military life reinforced what she already understood. Competence was survival. Mistakes were costly. Emotion was secondary to duty. By the time the war ended, Nancy carried herself with quiet authority. She understood systems, she understood power, and she understood that belonging was never automatic. Hollywood was never her original dream. In the early 1950s, she worked in MGM's publicity department, observing how the industry manufactured image and fame. Acting came almost by accident. Small roles followed, in Shane, A Star is Born, The Three Faces of Eve, and The Parent Trap. She proved reliable, intelligent, and precise. But Hollywood saw her through a narrow lens. Too tall, voice too low, presence too direct. Leading lady status remained elusive. Television offered more opportunity, yet it also solidified typecasting. She appeared on I Love Lucy and Maverick, often cast as secretaries, housekeepers, or sharp-tongued professionals. Nancy met every demand with skill, but excellence within limited roles became its own confinement. The industry valued her dependability while hesitating to center her. Everything shifted in 1962 when she was cast as Jane Hathaway on the Beverly Hillbillies. Miss Jane wasn't flashy, she wasn't romanticized. She was the bank secretary who kept chaos from unraveling completely. Nancy infused the role with dry wit and restrained humanity. Her performance earned a Primetime Emmy nomination in 1967. The show became a cultural phenomenon, running 9 seasons and drawing massive audiences. Yet success came with a ceiling. When the series ended in 1971, casting directors struggled to see beyond Miss Jane. Nancy continued working, appearing on Sanford and Son, Fantasy Island, The Love Boat, and voicing a character in Disney's The Aristocats. But the identity that brought her fame also restricted her range. Off-screen, tensions with Buddy Ebsen simmered quietly. Their differences were ideological and personal, rooted in worldview rather than performance. Nancy, shaped by education and service, leaned progressive. Ebsen held more conservative views. During the show, professionalism kept friction contained. Afterward, distance grew. When Nancy entered politics in 1984, running as a Democrat for Pennsylvania's 9th Congressional District, she saw it as public service, an extension of duty. She campaigned on education, environmental protection, and health care. But her opponent was well established, and Ebsen's radio ads endorsing the Republican incumbent struck hard. Hearing Jed Clampett's voice criticize her was more damaging than any ordinary attack ad. Nancy lost the election by a significant margin. Publicly, she remained composed. She stated she didn't blame her defeat on Ebsen, though she expressed disappointment. Years later, he apologized. She accepted. The wound, however, lingered quietly. Her personal life had long been subject to speculation. Married briefly to Charles Dacus in the early 1950s, she divorced in 1961 and never remarried. In a society eager to categorize unmarried women, rumors followed. Nancy neither confirmed nor denied them, responding instead with intelligence and measured humor. Those close to her later suggested she was part of the LGBTQ+ community, though she never publicly defined herself in that way. Silence, once again, was both shield and statement. In later years, she devoted herself to teaching theater at Juniata College and supporting animal welfare organizations. Students remembered her as demanding and thoughtful. She insisted that acting required discipline and purpose, not vanity. Away from Hollywood, she seemed at peace with a quieter life. By 1990, cancer reshaped her days. Treatment was harsh, strength diminished. Friends noticed her retreat inward, conserving energy. On February 3, 1991, Nancy Kulp passed away in Palm Desert, California. She was buried in Pennsylvania, far from studio lights. Her legacy is not measured by leading roles or awards. It lives in the figure of Miss Jane Hathaway, an intelligent woman on mainstream television who didn't apologize for competence. Nancy represented a form of femininity rooted in intellect rather than softness. She demonstrated that supporting roles can anchor entire stories. When old episodes of the Beverly Hillbillies air, audiences laugh at Miss Jane's dry delivery. But behind that humor stood a woman shaped by war, education, discipline, political courage, and solitude. Nancy Kulp may not have been Hollywood's conventional star, but she preserved something rarer: dignity. And perhaps that is what lingers most. Not a single line or scene, but the steady presence of someone who lived fully, even when she stood just outside the center of the spotlight.